Paul, do you have a story?
Oh, hold on.
Well, I want to know if he has one first.
I do. I mean, I have a ton of stories, man.
All right, we're gonna play the story time with Paul intro then.
Storytime with Paul.
So classy.
It is. I love it, dude. Everything
It's a
about
classy
it's
drawing.
amazing. Everything about it's amazing.
Story time with Paul.
The Paul in its natural environment.
Paul is going to tell us a story.
There's no Cheetos or burritos, though, so...
Yeah. It's kind of not accurate, but it's more classy that way, though, you know?
So, it's kind of weird. My dad came into town recently, and he may or may not watch this video. So, if he does, hi, Dad. My dad and I have had kind of an estranged relationship for a while. And it's one of those things I don't really want to get into in public. It's just it's a fractured relationship, and it has been for some time.
Tell us more of the details of your relationship. Get into it.
And how does that make you feel?
How does it make you feel, Paul?
You have the penis envy.
Yes, you have the Oedipus complex. You want to have sex with your mother. No, it's just weird. I don't know. When my parents got divorced, my dad kind of went out of his mind for a while, and with due reason. He was put through a lot of shit during the divorce, and but he didn't really know what to do with me as a young man, and so he kind of went the route of being my friend, which a lot of people go, oh man, that's fucking awesome. Because my dad would talk to me about sex and dirty jokes, and
that was our dad too, for sure.
I was like a bar buddy with him. You know what I mean? More like a bar buddy than a son.
That's exactly the relationship we had with our father, so we understand.
Yeah. So you understand where I'm coming from. Then, in retrospect, like at the time, there were even times when I was like, man, my dad's fucking great. Like, everybody else's dad is like, keep it down, but my dad's like, oh, let me tell you a pussy joke. You know what I mean? Like there were times in my young adult life where I was like, yo, this is cool. But in retrospect, I probably would have rather had a dad. You know what I mean? And I don't fault my dad for this. He just didn't know how to do it. But anyway, we were talking today, actually. We went out to lunch together. He's in town today, and he's leaving today. So we went to lunch together, and we got to talking about old stories and stuff. And there's this one story that I've always liked because it's got a lot of characters in it, but I've never told it. So I got in real trouble one time because I fucked up my dad's trumpet. Now, you have to understand about my dad is he grew up in poverty. And when I say poverty, I mean like barefoot poverty. Like they couldn't afford to buy him shoes. And on top of crushing poverty, his father was an abusive drunk, and it's just a fucked up life. Fucked up life for a young person to be raised in. And the one thing of worth that my dad had was this trumpet that he saved up money doing odd jobs all over town wherever he could while he was in high school. And he bought this trumpet, and it's a really nice trumpet. He still has it to this day. And one day, and he loved this trumpet. My dad's a pretty decent, kind of jazz trumpet player. And I, one day when I was a little kid, wanted to take it to school for show and tell. Because I loved it. He worshipped this trumpet, and I worshipped him. You know what I mean? So this was an object, a fetish object that was very important to him. Because he had worked and bled and sweated for this trumpet. And of course, I wanted to show everybody because, of course, as a kid, you want to show everybody everything amazing. So he says, you can take it to school, but you have to be very careful with it. And I said, okay, Dad, I'll be very, very careful. I promise. He showed me how to, put it in the case and this, that, and the other thing. Anyway, I take it to school, and on the way home from school, this kid wants to see it. And this kid happened to be my next door neighbor on the way home on the bus. His name was Sean Johnson. I can use his full name because, there's a billion Sean Johnsons. So, but Sean Johnson, and he came up to me, and he had a speech impediment. And he said, hey, P-Way. He used to call me P-Way. My PJ was my nickname growing up. Hey, P-Way, let me see your Twumpet. And I was like, nah, man.
Fudd.
Yeah, he had the Cindy Brady thing. I'm not making fun of people that have that. I know it sucks, but that's how he sounded. Hey, P-Way, let me see your Twumpet. And And I was like, I don't want to bring it out on the bus, man. It's going to get damaged. He's like, let me see it, man. And I was like, fine, fuck. So I opened it up, and he grabs it. He reaches in and grabs it, and he's like, huh, and he's turning it over in his hands. I'm like, man, give me that fucking trumpet back. And so he's like, okay. Gives me the trumpet back, and I put the trumpet in, but I put it in wrong. I put it in upside down. And I went to close the lid, and I kind of slammed the lid because I was pissed at Sean Johnson. And it dented my dad's trumpet, right? Now, this is not like something that's unfixable. You can have your trumpet repaired and shit. But as a kid, that's the scariest shit that's ever happened to you. Am I right? Like, you damaged something that your father is, like, it treasures.
Yeah. I feel you.
So I was scared out of my fucking mind. So I concocted the world's filthiest lie. I decided to take a little bit of truth and throw in a dash of good old Paulsego fiction. And... I made up this story that Sean Johnson had stolen the trumpet and dropped it. Wasn't what happened. He was fine with the trumpet. He didn't do any damage to it at all. I was the one that had damaged the trumpet. So I go home, and I'm like, well, I'm going to play this angle first. Maybe my dad won't even notice the dent. Maybe I'm just looking at it, and I see it because I know it's there. He hardly ever brings and at this point, it was true. He didn't bring the trumpet out very often. He had a flugelhorn that he played most of the time when he played. He didn't like playing with his trumpet because it was, special to him. Anyway, so I was like, maybe he won't even notice. He noticed immediately. He immediately opened the case, examined the trumpet, saw the dent, and pulled me aside and said, "What?" And my dad was never a yeller. He was not a screamer. My dad was a very simmering, quiet anger type of guy. Most of the time. I have heard him scream and yell, but it was very rare. So he leaned into me and he said, son, what happened to my trumpet? You want to tell me what happened to my trumpet? And I just burst into tears, and I was like, it was fucking Sean Johnson. I was on the bus, and he wanted to see the trumpet, and I told him no, and he made me open it, and he stole it, and he dropped it. I'm so sorry. And he said, son, are you telling me the truth? I said, yeah, Dad, I'm so sorry. I was trying to be good with him, and he's so stupid, fucking Sean Johnson. So he goes, okay, you're coming with me, and he walks across the street to the Johnsons' house. This is my worst fucking nightmare come true. The Johnsons, as it turns out, were wholly unreasonable people. They were the types of neighbors that everybody thinks of when they think of the bad neighbors. They were just like, they'd call the cops on you for no reason. Just slimy, like they were the gossip center. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they always were talking shit about everybody else, and you knew for a fact that they were talking shit about you when you were home and everybody else was at their house. It was just, they were just not good people. My dad walks across the street with my hand, and he knocks on the door, and Sean Johnson answers the door. And my dad says, son, can you get your mom or dad for me, please? And Sean goes, okay. Not knowing anything. Not knowing that he's done anything wrong, because in this incident, he hadn't, really. He goes and runs and gets his mom. His mom comes to the door, and my dad calmly explains to her, your son damaged something that's very important to me today on the bus. PJ, go ahead and tell the story. And Sean is standing there looking at me. And I'm like, Sean was on the bus, and he grabbed the trumpet, and he dropped it, and it made a dent. And Sean was like, no way, P-Way, I didn't drop the trumpet. I didn't drop the trumpet, Mom. And so his mom gets down on her, on one knee, and she goes, Shawnee, did you drop that trumpet? I swear, Mom, I didn't drop the trumpet. I held the trumpet, but I didn't drop the trumpet. I swear. She goes, Shawnee, you're lying to me. And she grabs his arm, lifts it up, and starts whooping his fucking ass right in front of me. And I'm sitting there.
Oh, man.
I'm like, what the fuck? At this point, as if shit couldn't get any worse, Sean's dad literally comes riding down the street on a horse.
Oh, my God.
I used to live out in the country, and people had horses and would ride them around the neighborhood and in the fields and shit that were around there. So here comes Shawnee's dad on a horse. And Shawnee's dad is the stereotypical right-wing Republican, shit-kicking, Wild Bill for America, just neocon, racist piece of human garbage. He drunk all the fucking time, violent. He comes riding up, gets off his fucking horse, and strolls over to my dad like he's John fucking Wayne and goes, "The fuck's going on here?" My dad said, "Well, your son, Sean, dropped my trumpet today on the bus, and it's not, it's not that big a deal. We can repair it, but I wanted to see if you guys would chip in on the repair." And Sean's dad does kind of the same thing that his mom had done. He goes, "Shawnee, did you drop this man's trumpet or whatever the fuck?" And Sean said, "No, Dad, I didn't." Of course, he hadn't. And Dad turns around and says, "Fuck you, get off my property. My son didn't drop shit." My dad nods his head and turns around and kind of leans down to me and whispers. He said, "Son, I'm about to get in a fist fight. And I just need to know that you are not making this up as a lie, that he actually dropped this trumpet. Because if he dropped the trumpet, then, and they're not going to pay for it, then I'm gonna kick his dad's ass. But if it's a lie, I need to know now." And I, of course, said, "Okay, it was me. I just closed the thing on it." And he goes, "Okay." And he walks over to Larry. Larry Johnson was this guy's name. Walks over to him and says, "I'm sorry, sir. Won't happen again." Shakes his hand. Walks over to Sean and apologizes to Sean. Walks over to his mom and shakes her hand. Grabs me by the hand and walks me back to the house. And he beat my ass. We got to the house, and he beat my ass harder than I've ever had my ass beat in my entire life. And that's the story.
Okay.
So you should have doubled down on the lie, because then he would have been the one with his ass beat.
Such a happy ending.
Right?
You can't bail on a lie.
Half measure.
Yeah, you can't bail on a lie when the pressure's on like that, you know?
He was so convincing when he was like, "I'm not going to be angry. You're not going to get in trouble."
Oh, you fell for that.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
I promise I won't be mad. Just tell me the truth. Okay,
Yeah.
Mom, I did it. What the?
Yep. And then out came the fucking belt, and he beat my ass for that. And I probably deserved it, because he had to humble himself before some really fucking shit-eating people. So
yeah, man.
Yeah, that's true.
I definitely had an ass beating coming, for sure.
You're a piece of shit, Paul. You're a real piece of shit.
Real piece of shit. That should help my credibility with the crowd of people that think my stories are all made up, too, right?
Yeah,
No,
because
You're phony.
who even cares? I
You're a
wouldn't even
big
care.
fat phone. I don't care.
The mythology of Paul.
I've like made up stories on YouTube and then told them at the end like that whole story was fake.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
I don't do that. I stand behind my stories. My stories all happened, with varying degrees of hot sauce added in the right places. Sure. I embellish a little bit here. I make a word choice there. But everything I tell, it happened. It happened.
It's legit.
It's
too
legitimate.
legit to quit.
Yeah.